Welcome to Honor Your True Story with Antonia Nelson, a podcast dedicated to sharing inspiring stories of hope, kindness, love, and compassion. Listen in as Antonia's guests share pivotal moments, forks in the road, ups and downs, and wisdom earned on the road of life.
Our guest today is Tony Lugo. He's an award-winning filmmaker of short-form narrative, documentaries, and music videos. He honed his skills in cinematography and editing before fully pursuing his directing career. He has been in the military as a Marine, and he has twice been selected as a Latino scholar by the National Association of Latino Independent Producers, an organization that supports emerging Latino filmmakers. Tony's also selected as a leadership fellow for the nonprofit Veterans in Media Entertainment in recognition of his leadership in volunteerism. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's such a great pleasure to be here.
Well, I saw your film, Midnight.
Yeah.
Which is what made me want to talk to you, because it was just such a great little film, you know. The
Thanks.
Film was great, the music was great, and
Thank you.
I wanted to know more. I'm like, well, what's part two? Or what's part three? And then also just got me thinking about, like what goes on in the mind of somebody who's making, especially short films. To me, I don't know, is it true? Is it harder to make a short?
Making a film in general is tough. Shorts, the only reason I would consider shorts tougher is because there's no market for them. You can't make a short film and then go off and sell it. It's very rare that happens. So you're really doing it for the love of the craft. There are some markets for it, but overall, as a whole, short films are tough to sell after you're done making the film. But that's probably the one thing that's tougher about it. Making a feature film is, 10 times as drastic and tough as making a short film.
Right. I suppose the payoff is like bigger because, like you said, you can sell it. I didn't know that there wasn't a market you could sell the shorts. So is there an in-between, something that you can do, that you can make because you love it, and then also sell it, or, have it out there?
There are some platforms that take short films. It's just you're really limiting what you're able to do with the film after it's done making a short film. Yeah.
Well, I learned that new today. That's awesome. So you're from Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I was born and raised there. Yeah. And
so how does a young boy in Austin, Texas, get to be doing what you're doing in LA, making film? What was the path?
So I had always loved cinema. I'd always loved the movies. Some of my fondest memories are going to the movie theater with my parents and my brother, and I didn't know it was something I wanted to do until after the Marine Corps. I focused on being an actor because I thought that's what you want to be. You love movies, but the thing that you see on the screen are the actors. So I guess the gateway drug for me was acting. And then I wasn't really in love with it, but then I became an extra on this film, and the film set was massive, and I just fell in love with being behind the scenes, and I felt like that was my calling, to be behind the camera.
I heard on the podcast where you were just describing, maybe this is it, when you were an extra in the film Alamo.
Yeah.
And you were describing that little farm.
Yeah. Yeah, that little farm was way in the corner of the town, and I knew as soon as we stepped off the bus that little farm was never going to make it on camera. But just in case it did, the detail put into that was very, for some reason, for me, seeing that, like seeing the the land where the seeds would be dropped in, and then seeing the little farmhouse and the little plow leaning against the house. And it was just, for me, it was just like the care to put into creativity, and it just made its mark on me.
So totally a breadcrumb.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
a big one, right?
Yeah.
And so that got you more into wanting to be behind the scenes. And
oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like being behind the scenes is, or being behind the camera is just, for me, I think George Clooney put it best, because, he acts and directs. He said he prefers directing because he prefers to be the painter versus the paint,
yeah, well, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. I always wonder what, being an actor, if you're an actor and you're a director, do you see things differently because you've been on both sides of the camera?
You know how to talk to actors, and that's important. Talking to actors is, how to get, because you've been through trying to get to an emotion of a character. You know how to speak with an actor and converse with them and get them to see their story or their arc. And you don't just say, hey, show more emotion. You're able to delve into the mindset of the character with the actor and collaborate, because they bring great ideas to the table all the time. And it's just, they appreciate when a director knows what they want, and they're able to share in that process.
Yeah. How was it for you with your film Midnight?
With Midnight, it was great because the actors were such pros, and every single one came prepared. Every single one came with ideas. Every single one came with like thoughts of how they should approach a certain line of dialogue, or how they should approach the emotion of the scene. And because I prepared from my aspect of it, I was able to take their ideas and say, hey, or think, hey, if I do this, we can kind of move the story in this direction. And I think being prepared on both sides as a director, and then the actors came prepared, that allowed us to make any wiggle room we had to do, or we wanted to do, for the sake of the story, just because we were so ready to do what we had to do.
So it really was a collaboration. I love that when you talk about everybody showing up.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not just between the actors and the director, it's the director and the cinematographer, the art department, and it's a total collaborative process. You need, I think this is just an opinion, but I think to be a really good filmmaker, a really good director, you do need some form of humility to be able to take in other people's ideas, because you're going into something with your vision, and other people might have ideas that go against that vision. And if that works for the story, you need to be open to be able to see that you can take it in that direction. And that really helps, being open to collaboration and being prepared, and listening to your actors and listening to your cinematographer.
Yeah. And is it like that now in film more than it was, like 20, 30 years ago, where the director wasn't, the be all end all of everything and made all the decisions? Is it more collaborating now?
I think it is. I feel like it is. I think every great filmmaker in history has had some form of collaboration some way or another. I can't speak because I wasn't there, but I would imagine, just by going through the experiences I've been through, that without some form of collaboration, it's tough to bear it all on your shoulders and say, no, this is it. Not being open to ideas that better the story and push the story forward. That's the thing it's really all about.
Yeah. And I imagine, like, as you're talking, you can't like beat people into doing things that you want them to do and expect it to be a great performance. I
Yeah.
guess,
No.
as you said, it does take a special.
Yeah. And there are some times where you have to stick to your guns, and you have to do what you believe in. And when you have the respect of your crew and your actors, they go on that journey with you. They might disagree with you, but then if you really believe in that vision, and you're really clear in communicating that vision, they trust you to go on that journey with you. It's very vulnerable to be an actor. Like which is why I love working with them. But that vulnerability, leaves them wide open for possibly making a fool of themselves. So they fully trust you, and if you're prepared, they fully trust you. If you have a strong vision, they fully trust you, and they go along on that journey with you.
Yeah, I think that's something that all of us could use a little more of. making a fool of ourselves, being okay with making a fool of ourselves, right? Not taking everything so seriously.
Right. I mean, if you look at it, like look at all the big time Hollywood movies, no matter if they're all bad, the general if the general public doesn't go see a movie made by only a handful of directors are like, oh, the general public knows their name, and they go say, I'm going to go see this filmmaker's movie. Most of the time people say, I'm going to go see the new Tom Cruise, or I'm going to go see the new Angelina Jolie. So it's the actors that are thrust out into the spotlight, and they're the ones that will get the blame for a good or a bad film.
That is true. Yeah, that is, a lot rides on their shoulders for sure.
Yeah.
So how is it living in LA? Do you like it?
No, I love it. I love the weather. I love there's an energy here that's, if you're creative, and it's a tough city because, it gets a rap for being, a surf city full of hippies that drink kombuchas or whatever. But it's a you very much have to be on your game here, because like any major city, or just in life in general, if you let it, it's going to run you over, but it's going to keep on going, not caring that it knocked you down. So it's very much a tough city in that sense, but I really appreciate the creativity here. I really appreciate the art here. It's eclectic. It's an eclectic mix of people, from film to music to fashion, and it's a great world to be a part of.
Yeah. I was surprised when I did finally get there. You think, ooh, LA, scary place to go, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, it really is beautiful.
Ocean, and like you said, all the people and all the history there, and it was just really fun. It was a fun time to be able to visit. Yeah. And so, Austin, Texas, do you get back to Austin very often?
Yeah, I do get back to Austin pretty often. It's still my hometown. I love it for how it shaped me as a man, as a human being. I grew up in Austin. Was a very artistic town. It's changed a whole lot. It's so different than what it used to be. It's, in some senses, in that sense, I'm a little frustrated with it, but in other senses, it's still home. My family's there, my friends are there, the same streets I grew up making all those mistakes are there. It's a place holds a place in my heart.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, your family's there, your history's there, and that those places that hold that for us, and then when they start being overrun and just growing like crazily out of control, it's just like, what do you do?
What do you do? I mean, everyone that goes there says they love it, but in my heart, I knew a different city,
Right. Yeah. So you went into the service.
I did.
As a very young man. Yep. And you didn't just go into the service, you became a Marine.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
The hardest,
Yeah.
the toughest branch, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. And you chose that. Why?
I think in high, I never really had an answer for myself as to, it was like a spontaneous decision. And my dad was in the army and he ended up retiring from the Air Force. Both my uncles were in the army. My grandfather on my dad's side was in the army. It was, and I think once when I was like 12 years old, I said, I'm going to join the Marines. And I never even thought about it again since. So I think it was very spontaneous, but I think it came from a point of I was never the most athletic. I was never the most popular. I was never the most vocal in anything. So I think I needed a challenge for myself, and I was scared to live in Austin after school without any prospects of anything what I considered special at the time. But what I feel like I had a creative bug that I hadn't yet discovered, and I think going into the Marine Corps helped me discover that.
How so? Can you say more about that?
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry. So there were I started off doing like impressions of singers and comedians, and then for some reason like that gave me attention from other people, and this was in the barracks and people were laughing at me or with me, one or the other. but I was getting their attention, and that's what I noticed, and I enjoyed that. So I think that's what led to the acting. And then I went to school at night while I was in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I took an English 101 class, and the teacher said I had a very unique writing style and that I should keep pursuing it. And I did. And those two things I remember were the bedrock of what ultimately became me pursuing the film industry.
That's cool. Well, I mean, I never thought of it, but becoming a Marine, you had a captive audience every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. People ready to make fun of you in any way, shape, or form. But,
Yeah, right. But there they, you were there in front of them there they were. And yeah, your writing skills, definitely. That's cool that the teacher recognized that in you.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other thing. The second thing. So the first thing I saw was your film Midnight. And then I was, Googling you and trying to find other things. And I found on Medium this article that you had written when you were living in Chicago for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I love Chicago. And so I read it, and it kind of was like the movie. Like the movie was really great. And I really, went with it. And when it was over, it was like, no, I want more. And it was kind of the same thing with your article on being in that Chicago bar for the hockey game.
Yeah.
It was, like I was right there. I was on the L going over to the bar and sitting on the stools and watching the game. So your writing and your filming definitely offers that to the people that are watching. I think that was really for me. Yeah.
That's really good to hear, because, as a creative, at least speaking as a creative, that you get insecure. I was writing something yesterday, and this morning I woke up thinking to myself, man, why did I do that? Why did I choose to write about that? It's not going to do anything. It's not going to go anywhere. You keep getting these self-doubts that pop into your head. And I think producing stuff for the masses really gives voice to both your creativity and that negative feedback that you're scared to let take hold, because it can be very crippling. Totally.
And so that thing that you wrote about yesterday, did you choose it to write about it, or did it choose you to write about? Which one?
I'll say I think it chose me.
Yeah.
But then you have to do the work, right?
Right.
Once that decision is made, you have to be the one that sits down with it and goes through all the ups and downs of writing a piece.
Right. Yeah, I remember I took a couple of writing classes with Natalie Goldberg.
Oh,
And
nice.
one of the many profound things that she shared in a session that we did together. And she said, you have to give yourself permission to write the worst shit possible. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do that. I can write that like that
Yeah.
way. And it was just so freeing of, instead of thinking like, oh my God, I have to sit down and write, the great American novel on the first try kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, one of the best pieces of advice I heard, it wasn't given to me directly. I think I heard it on like a interview or something like that. But they said you have to give yourself permission to fail. You have to give yourself permission to be bad. You have to go and suck for a little bit, because
Yeah.
that's how you get better.
Right.
You learn from your mistakes, and you learn from the things that didn't work, and you just keep pushing forward. And that's what I learned about Midnight, because there are a lot of things. I see all the mistakes. Some people really enjoyed that film, but I watch it and I can see all the mistakes I made. But instead of getting down on myself with the mindset of going out and allowing yourself to get better, it made me excited to do the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. Yeah.
So do you have a next one that you're working on, or that you already have out?
Yeah, I actually have a film that I shot before Midnight, but I didn't get edited until after. That's hidden. It's in festivals now. It's making its festival run now. And then I have another one in pre-production that I'm trying to raise the funding for.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
I wish you all the best around that.
Oh, thank you very much.
So do you see yourself putting together a longer film, or a series of things together kind of thing?
Absolutely do. I absolutely do. Yeah. I've written several feature-length screenplays. I have creative friends that are writers. It's really, I'm trying to, right now I'm laying the seeds to try to get something off the ground feature length wise.
Awesome.
And yeah, thanks. And I'm reaching out to certain people. I'm getting certain things in motion, and I'm waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, I suppose all those balls that are juggling in the air, right? Trying to put everything together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and as I was listening to the other podcast, and you guys were talking about film and how things have changed. And then I thought, well, yeah, I guess film has changed, certainly just with technology, but like with COVID, like how we watch has changed. Well, even before COVID, I mean, I grew up in a day where, back in the olden days, where you would watch a program and it came on, the next one came on next week. And that's just how it always was. Now you can watch, 30 shows in one day if you want to.
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh my gosh, and I wonder sometimes, what is that doing to my brain? Instead of having the space, to really digest what I just saw. So what are your thoughts about viewing? And
I'm not a fan of binge watching. It's like an all you could eat buffet for your brain, Yeah. To me, like some of the greatest shows I watched, you had to wait that week before you could watch the next episode, and all you did was talk about it with your friends, and also there was that joy of just going to the cinema and seeing something that's absolutely mind-blowing, and it just changes the way you view certain things, or changes the way your cinema experience, and you get to share that with the crowd in the theater. And so I hope it sticks around. I hope it sticks around a lot longer, but things change, and I'm fully aware of that. But the anticipation and the waiting and going to share an experience, to me, really make things worth it.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point. There's a couple different streaming networks that I'm on that whatever show, there's a week waiting period.
Yeah.
Oh, and part of me is like, no, I want to know. I want it now. But
Yeah.
there's something, there's this longing that gets built.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I wonder what it's going to be like, and I appreciate it, where it used
Yeah.
to bug me, like, because I want what I want right now. It's
Like,
yeah.
go ahead. Like millions of other people, I was absolutely enamored with Breaking Bad,
Oh
the
yeah.
TV show. And I mean, can you imagine if you didn't have to wait a week after that episode where it's like the second to last episode and they get out and they end in a gunfight and then they cut the black and then you have to wait a week to watch the next episode. I mean, can you imagine the loss of impact if you were able to stream it immediately? I don't know. It was just, it was,
I don't know if it, do you
television.
Think, yeah, because I had to watch it when I watched it.
Yeah.
I watched it weekly.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have had the same impact if I would have, just binge watched it.
Yeah, because there's still, I think there is like a numbing after like the second or third episode.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. It's like, like you said with the buffet, you can keep shoveling it in, but you can't taste it anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So when you were in the service, you mentioned that you were in 3 places, and I was just curious that you were in Cuba, Greece, and Ireland.
Yeah.
So what was one thing in each one of those places that was like really beautiful or really profound for you?
I'll start with Ireland. Spending the day in Dublin, drinking an actual Guinness from an Irish bar, asking an Irishman, hey, do you know where the ATM is? And not understanding a single word he said to me.
Yeah.
That's what I remember about Ireland. Cuba or Greece, man, Greece was gorgeous. Everything was beautiful in Greece. It reminded me, I'm half Puerto Rican. It reminded me of Puerto Rico a little bit, driving through the hills of Puerto Rico. But the beaches the waters were crystal clear. Everybody seemed to be like a great looking person, male and female. They all seemed to be like models, and the food was incredible. And it was just a gorgeous place. I was in Thessaloniki, and then Cuba, while we were there after 9/11, it's a tropical island. It's beautiful. And while we were there with detainees, they had this on base, there was this movie theater. There was just a screen, and it was an amphitheater. There's just a screen and the theater chairs. And I just remember seeing films there at night under the Cuban stars. And it was just a beautiful thing to go to envision, like that cool tropical night air is gently blowing on you while you're watching, this might date me, but like Ocean's 11 or, films like that. Yeah.
You mentioned my dad was in Puerto Rico. He was in the service, and that was the one thing he said. They were in a base that was out by this airfield, and he said every night the breeze that came through was just. He said he's never experienced that anywhere else. He just thought Puerto Rico was just the most incredible place to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like Caribbean breeze.
Yeah. Have you visited there often?
Puerto Rico. Yeah. I used to go every other year. I haven't been in a while. I need to make it back, but I've been dozens of times. But it's been a good amount of time since I last been. Okay. My dad's side of the family is there, and so I have a good base there. If anytime I go, it's a beautiful place.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what comes first for you? I'm just curious. This just popped into my head. Like, what comes first to you? Is there the idea comes in for the film, or does it come through writing, or something you hear or see somewhere, or is it just all different?
It depends. But one thing that's constant is, since I love movies so much, I think cinematically. So I think in terms of movie scenes or movie endings or powerful movie moments that could happen, and I just jot those down, and then I kind of build ideas around that. Like I think of ideas for characters and how you could stack the world against them, and how they could come out of that and take us on a journey with them. So it's really, in the sense, I come up with characters and movie ideas or scene ideas that I want to see them survive or make it out of. And then I think, I don't know how this sounds to the average listener, but I kind of like let the character lead me from there. And like I've stacked all the chips against them, and I just kind of let them go from there. I just kind of let them take the lead.
Do they talk to you?
Yeah, they talk to me all the time. Like was that with Midnight, Dara, the lead. I mean, there is this plain Jane woman who wants to take down, a drug kingpin. How is that even vaguely possible? It's just, I jot down these ideas and then I let them take me for the ride.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think about that question when I was watching the movie, of thinking, like, what was this woman thinking? Why would she think this would be possible, right? Like, how could it be possible? But
right.
That's, I was in it, so I was right there, right with her. I'd be like, fighting that fight too. So so would you share, this was something else that I heard in another interview, where you after your brother passed, the letter that you got and how that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll share that. So my brother passed away in 2004. I was 24 years old. He was pretty young. He was 31, I think. And he lived in Laredo, Texas. I lived in Austin, Texas. If you live in Texas, that's like a 4-hour commute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he knew but when he passed, I was still just acting. And I had barely started testing the waters of what being a filmmaker could be versus just being an actor. So I started going back to the movies maybe 6 times a week. I was at the movie theater. I had bought this camcorder and wanted to start making my own little skits or whatever. And then my brother passes. Several weeks, maybe a couple months after he passes, there's a letter that comes to my place in Austin, but it's addressed to him, has his name on the letter, and it's to the Los Angeles Film School. And yeah. So I enrolled at the Los Angeles Film School. I went to the LA Film School, and and then I even went to UCLA for a bit after that as well.
I love that story. It's just one of those.
I like to think I'm a logical person who really appreciates the sciences, but there are just like 2 things in life that keep me from being like full blown. These have all the answers. It's just one of those, is that letter that I got from my brother.
Yeah, there's no way to explain that one.
Yeah.
Gotta really feel it. I know that was one of the things that really stood out for me when I heard that. I was like, ooh, wow, that was.
Yeah, it was man, it was that's how, like, you look at all the bumps in the road and the brick walls that you have to climb over or burst through, and the thing that keeps me going is the base of having that letter.
Yeah, and where does the help come from, and how does the help come? And I think, like you said, if we're so analytical in just the science, then we just kind of rule all that out as whatever. And I think that's where I go first usually. It's like, whoa, that's just awesome. So, so a lot of times, asking people like, what would you tell your younger self, about what was coming? But what would your future self, imagine what would your future self like to tell you right now about what?
Oh, man, my future self. Wow.
Yeah.
I hope he says good things. Probably says keep working hard. Don't leave any stone unturned. Reach out to as many people as you can, and don't be afraid to have the feelings that you have.
Wise future self, right?
Or he's probably at a bar somewhere thinking, this guy, why did he mess it up? I'm kidding. No, I'm joking.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't
he's
think
not.
that's part of the story.
Yeah. He's probably yelling, I could have been a contender. No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always I thought it was interesting what what those messages that we do get.
Mhm.
So you do some stuff with the vets.
Yeah.
Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah. No, so there's been I go to the VA hospital and I like to volunteer my time there sometimes. I've been there a couple Christmases ago. We went and visited people, visited veterans that didn't have any family visiting them. And there's the Veterans in Media and Entertainment. We set up, I volunteer with them, and they set up classes for other veterans trying to get into the film industry. And I try to make myself available to any veteran who is seriously interested in pursuing this business, and I like to provide some mentorship for them.
That's awesome. Do you get a lot of people who are interested and want to pursue?
Yeah, most of them are interested in the acting aspect of it. So I can't help much there because I'm not an actor, but I'll try to lead them in the right direction. And,
sure.
Yeah.
So just have somebody who can connect with you, who has a similar background like they do, that you are, and is just a little bit of parting the veils of what it's like and what may like in the future. Yeah.
Right.
So what do you see for yourself in the next 5 years?
Well, hopefully I'm still making movies. Hopefully I'm still able to keep this up. As my dad would say, hope is a denial of reality. So let's keep making movies.
There you go. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And hopefully also I'm providing a positive impact to society in some way, shape, or form, So
do you get that you already are?
I like to think I am, but it's up for other people to decide.
Well, for myself, I'll just say that it was seeing your movie and reading the piece that you wrote about Chicago that made me want to have you on the show.
Oh, well, that's very sweet.
Because
I'm very glad I spoke to you.
Yeah, I was touched by it. And I know there's, hundreds of thousands of writers out there and movies makers out there. And so there was something about your work that I wanted to know more about who you are, what makes you tick.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and it's true. I love movies and I don't watch a lot of shorts, but I thought, well, here I get to watch a short and I kind of like them. Yeah. So I think I'll watch more now and
great.
Yeah. So, and
That's awesome.
It'll be fun to just watch how how things go for you in the next years and seeing your names in the lights and all that stuff and doing, like you said, doing good things in the world.
I'll come back on the podcast when that happens. How's that?
That would be wonderful. I would love to hear that. I'd love to share that. So anything you want to share with people before?
I think the one thing I want to share is let's everybody be kind to each other.
Well, that right there is it, right?
Yeah.
Kindness. Yep. And what's one thing that you would like people to get from you being on this today? What would you like them to know?
I would like them to know that if they believe in something, if they feel something like I feel, I want to work in this industry, or I love the creative aspect of it. I can't see myself doing anything, and everything I do is geared towards helping me succeed in this business. If you have anything like that, whether it's you want to be in IT, or you want to be a bird watcher or something, I don't know, I'd say just do it. Just start now,
Yeah.
Start now and do everything you can to. Everything you do in life should be geared toward that thing,
Yes. Yes, that sounds great. And people can find you. Do you want to share your email, or not your email address, but your website where
Sure.
people can go check you out?
Yeah. So my website is www.lugotron.com. You can find me on Instagram at _Lugotron. And I'm on Twitter at Lugotron.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is your film Midnight is it still able to watch on Vimeo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up on Vimeo. Yeah.
So I highly recommend people go watch it. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. This is awesome. And I wish you well. And yes, please keep us updated. Okay.
Absolutely. It was such a great pleasure to speak with you. What a lovely conversation.
Thanks for listening to Honor Your True Story. If you loved what you heard, please share this podcast with a friend and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.